Hey. Welcome to
Hey, how are you?
Bridging. Good. Welcome to Bridging the Seen and Unseen. I am Shane. I am the host here. How are you, Ms. Gwen?
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good. So we were supposed to have some special guests on tonight, but I think they may have gotten time zones
They're
a little
coming.
off.
I just got a message. They're just taking a second, but they're
I
already
got
coming.
you. I got you. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to talking to them because I know they were on listening to the podcast before, and I know I've wanted to ask them some questions that they have to.
Oh yeah, they're awesome. But they should be on any second. Why don't you
Yeah.
tell us about I know you're going to be at an event on May 3rd.
Yeah,
If
oh
anybody
yeah,
wants to come
yeah.
out and see
That's
you.
that Paracon. I'm looking forward to that because it's for the restoration of the Thomas House, and
Mhm.
I mean it's an iconic place, and anybody that's in the paranormal, they should definitely be willing to really go, and I mean if give your time or whatever to help these places, because man, without these locations, guys, like we're not investigators.
Mm-mm.
We can't investigate if we don't have those kind of locations. I mean, unless you're going to be stuck doing residentials the whole time, but I mean, the Thomas House is such a beautiful place and such good people there, and they've already had to tear down some of their some of their areas around that place because they haven't had the money to keep up with it. And
Right.
I mean, just putting your time in, inviting people, doing stuff like that to come in really makes a difference to really go.
It does.
And I'm really looking forward to it, because I mean we've got a great lineup so far of people, and I'm looking forward. Miranda Young is going to be there, and I'm looking forward to meeting her too, because we've been on each other's podcast several times, and but
Here's
we're
one
gonna
of our guests.
all right.
All right, we got Frankie from Haunted Souls. Why don't we go ahead and bring him up? There he
Hey,
is.
buddy, how are you?
Can you hear Frankie?
Is that good?
Okay, there
Hey,
you go.
Frankie, how are you, man?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Shane McLain. I'm the host.
Okay, cool. Well, nice to meet you, Shane. I saw you a couple nights ago online, and
Yep. I
um,
did. I saw you guys. You were commenting several times, and I know I wanted to speak with you guys. Because don't you guys deal with spiritual warfare and stuff like that also?
yeah, there's people on our team that have undergone some of that stuff. We deal with it. We have some outlets to that as well. So yeah, I mean, we try to keep the locations that we're at the ones that we can control or gatekeep, as people say.
Yeah.
Um, those we try to basically say. Listen, no Ouija boards, no seances, no altars, no sex, no weird rituals. Like, just come here and ghost hunt. Just like,
Hmm.
don't
Yeah.
There
create
you
anything that
go.
we have to close a portal on. Okay,
Yeah.
Dan,
Yeah.
where's Dan at? Oh, I don't know. He might be here. I don't know. I know he was
Yeah.
going to be a
That's
little late. So,
that's interesting. Because I do residential cases and stuff like that. Like I help families that are dealing with paranormal issues and stuff, and I have to find out. I find out if they've done the Ouija board or if they have, because believe it or not, man, like people have had generational stuff happen to them,
yeah,
to where like their mother or something played with it when they were there, when they were like real young, and it's carried on to them. And I've seen some crazy ones like that, but I don't believe in using that stuff either. And some people do. Some people can mess with Ouija boards and do seances and stuff like that. Some people can do it. It just doesn't work with me.
yeah. I mean, it's I mean, some people would tell you that it's what you're manifesting. It's what you're putting into the board. And my thing is that that's okay. All right. Well, But the problem is that
You don't know what's coming out.
the establishment of Ouija or Witchboard, it has an interesting ontology as well, how it all began. It actually began with crystals and letters and mirrors, and people still scrying to these days, but it has its birthplace in scrying. And then when you move into the original turn of the century Ouija boards, they were very popular in the second spiritual movement. And the first was basically during the Civil War, right? So Abraham Lincoln was a very spiritual person, and believed heavily on seances and finding. He lost his son at a very young age, and then he would lose another one in the war. So he wanted a way to communicate. And I understand that sometimes people grieve in that sense. But it did become very popular. And then you have, of course, the Fox sisters, and there's a bunch of different psychics that were going around. And then, so the spiritualistic movement, there were two ages of that. During the turn of the century, 1900s, the original Witchboard, which is the American produced one, was actually produced in Salem, Massachusetts. So the original boards actually show Salem, Massachusetts. I actually own one. They're a large board. I own it for, we don't use the board. We own it for vintage purposes. It's kind of cool. It's a closed board. I mean, we don't use it with a planche or anything, but it is pretty cool to see the inheritance of it. I mean, Salem had witch trials. Peabody had more witch trials. So that whole area is kind of like an interesting, you bet it on the crucible and stuff. So the history is a little loose when they're trying to sell stuff. I mean, it's a very gimmicky town. Unfortunately, Salem is not a place that I would.
I know. And not only that, but if you think, man, I'm 47 years old, so, my teenage years were in the 90s. And so, but like in the 80s, late 70s, stuff like that, like it was so common for just any kind of family just to have a Ouija board in their house. I mean, they were everywhere. They were everywhere. And like the one that my family had, my grandparents came here from Ireland. I'm a McLain, and my mom, she's Ely's, and they come from Dublin and Belfast, and they brought a wooden, like an original, like big, like you were talking about, big wooden Ouija board that had like Celtic symbols and stuff like that on it. And I found myself, as a kid, just playing around with it. My dad got tired of it. And so he took it out, and we had I live here in the Low Country, and we're big on seafood and like have big oyster pits and stuff like that. So he took it and threw it into the oyster pit. And I just remember having a down feeling about it, just down. And I turned around and started walking back, walking down the trail to go back inside. And I came back in and walked upstairs. And when I went up, I opened the door to my room, and the Ouija board was sitting on my bed.
Yeah. What part are you in? Just South Carolina, or?
Yep. I'm in Beaufort, South Carolina. I'm literally like 2 minutes from Paris Island.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly where you are. I'm from Miami, Florida, originally.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my wife's from Orlando.
Okay, yeah. So, I did the Florida life, and then I'll be in New Orleans this weekend, for a life celebration. Not anything spooky, but I mean, the town is haunted, so you're gonna get.
New Orleans, yeah, and people don't understand that around here either, because like there's a big culture around here, not so much of voodoo, but of hoodoo. Mm-hmm. And because I know it sounds crazy around here, man, but we have what we call geechees. I don't know if you ever heard that, but it's a Gullah. It's Gullah culture, and they're so rooted in, and I mean, like, they're so paranoid. Some of the people around here are so paranoid. Like, you'll have a green house with blue shutters, and they do that. And if you look inside their window, they have salt on the inside of their windows. I mean, they're really rooted in hoodoo culture around here.
Oh yeah, South Carolina is known for their Gullah. They even have their own Gullah spice, their food spices. So,
Yep,
Mhm.
yep. And they sound, I mean, and honestly, if you talk to a really deep rooted Gullah person, they kind of sound like, boy, mess you up, boy.
Yeah.
You know, they sound crazy, but
They do.
it's such an interesting culture. And like if you left from here and you went to the Fusky Island, you know, I've got some friends that live out the Fusky, and you know, you have to get there by boat. This
Mm.
is it's an island by itself, you know. I mean, it's a beautiful island, but during the Civil War and stuff like that, you know, they had plantations out there, and the owners of the plantations, when they passed away, they gave the land to the slaves that were there, so the government can never take that land from them.
Yeah. South Carolina, I actually did. I was going to move to Charleston at one point. There is a interesting lore and history there that I studied for years. Um, and when you get into the Gullah and the more, it's basically that is their version of voodoo versus like Nola's.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they replace corn and maize with rice down in New Orleans from a food cultural standpoint. So there's definitely a lot of different things going on. We actually have a. I'm gonna try to attempt to stream this to my YouTube as well. So I'm logging in.
Awesome,
That'd be cool.
awesome.
He'll pop back. He didn't realize.
Oh, I
There he
got you.
goes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As soon as it does that, it cuts them off.
Yeah.
You got it?
Okay, I'm back, and I think
Thank
this
you.
is. I can chat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
guys, we have one question.
Okay.
Derek McFadden. He's from
What's up,
Derek.
Derek?
If I get it wrong, Eternal Paranormal. We had him on last night on Sean's show. Let's see. How often do you run into negative energy, Frankie?
Only when I'm at work. No, I think that every place holds both, right? I think that you have people manifesting.
Yep.
You have people that you don't know. The tough part about running events, and we do so many events. We do, I think we have 57 events this year. At last count, we have 13 locations. So we do a lot in the Midwest. There's a lot of different events, and we're going to a lot of different places. And with that comes the carrying of making sure that our team is coming out without anything coming with us.
Yeah.
And good people usually send, and we some people use black salt. I'm more religious. I'm more into the St. Michael aspect of things, and
Mhm.
protecting us and having spiritual prayer. But we are also kind of inclusive as well. So not everybody's Catholic on my team. Some people believe in other stuff. So we're very neutral when it comes to whatever works for somebody. I'm not I guess negativity. If you're in prisons, if you're in asylums, if you're in sanatoriums, I think you're going to get a lot of that. I think you're going to get a lot more negative energies. I mean, demons are something that's my ontologist background and demon origin.
That's
It's
that's
very
where
rare. Ancient evil doesn't hang out and shake a door handle for 80
no,
years.
that's what I say. That's exactly what I tell them. I'm like, if a coffee cup flies across your room, that's, and you claim that that's demonic, out of all the cases that I've ever worked like that, maybe 1% may be demonic.
That's right. Demons seek out certain people,
Yep.
mostly
True.
spiritual, heavily rooted in Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
Those are the enemies.
They want to
don't
destroy.
care
They
too
want to
much.
destroy
Yeah,
holy.
exactly. They don't care too much about Wiccans and pagans and Saxons and whatever people want to believe in, or crystal people, the metaphysical world. They don't really typically bother those people because in some books they already have them. They want people that are Christian and God fearing and
Yeah.
love Christ. And that's not to say that those people are wrong for what they believe in. I mean, eventually no atheist ever dies an atheist is what I always believe. So you get there one way or the others. That's a good question. Demons, how rare are they to come across accidentally? Depends on, once again, if you had people, there are certain places my team is not allowed to go. We're about 20 strong, so 20 Haunted Souls members, and we are in 3 states now. So they are not allowed to go to certain places on our blackout list. They are not allowed to enter Sally House. They are not allowed to enter certain other demonic entities. Recently, the Monroe House has changed its name because it needed to, but it's actually the Monroe Mystery House. It's not the Monroe Demon
The
House.
Demon House, yeah.
Yeah, and they recently, I think, went back to Mysterious, because like the thing with the demon clickbait is one thing.
Yeah,
When you
it
are
is.
up against coming across, what do you, first of all, the first question is like, any good exorcist will tell you they're the biggest skeptic in the room. Okay, they're it's really hard for them to kind of just be like, okay, well, it's a demonic possession.
I specialize in spiritual warfare and demonology, and I'm telling you now, I try my best to veer people away from that, because what mainstream and what people have claimed demonic, like it has to meet criteria behind that,
It just doesn't.
and it doesn't.
Even the Haunted Boy, which Troy Taylor here in the Midwest loves to do this thing every year, where he talks about the Haunted Boy case in 1949.
Mm-hmm.
Look, the seriousness about that case, the realization about that case. I actually did another. Blondes and Booze has a really cool podcast that they kind of do. It's a paranormal show and tell. They do a little spinoff, and I think that one of the reasons that she invited me on the show, she's like, "Hey, you got to help me out, the Haunted Boy, and can you come on?" And so I logged on and I held it. The problem with the 49 case in St. Louis, where we live, is the archdiocese never approved any of that. They're like, you don't have enough legs, and the archdiocese hides their exorcists. That they're not known to your church. If you're a Catholic and you go to church every Sunday, you'll never know who your exorcist is.
No, yeah, and there's a lot that do that. There's a lot, they keep them.
Yeah, so when these people are online talking about, like, you know, they profess those types of things, and they're with the clergy or they're retired priest, I'm very weary of those people, because, you know, I know the ones that are actually doing it, and they're like, that's kind of weird that they're doing that. They don't really advertise that because of Hollywood and how many inundation of movies, and the movies have really made ghost hunting interesting, right? Because I don't want to bash it too much, because it does bring business our way. It's just when people get to the location and, you know, they're there they are. So Blondes and Booze are actually, they're affiliates. They're actually badged Haunted Souls. They're part of our team too. So it's kind of cool to have them. And me and Krista and Brandy, I mean, we were all on the same team at one point. And
hello guys, thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, we've dealt with dark shit when I was a kid mostly. But I'll tell you one thing, and Shane, you can probably back me on this. You will know. Somebody asked in the comments over there, how do you know?
Oh,
you will know. It's a different feeling altogether.
It's not even just a feeling, because, you know, we work a lot on separating what demonic activity and mental health is, and a lot of people have equated like deep-rooted mental health with demonic activity, which
Sure.
I do understand, because if you take someone who has manic schizophrenia and you put them next to someone who has demonic oppression, not possession, there's a lot of resemblance there.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but you can definitely tell the difference. First of all, if they're speaking other languages, there's 3, 4, 5 voices coming out of them at one time. They're saying in levitation, extraordinary strength. If they know personal things about you that no one would have been able to know, you know, there's things that mental health have no answer for. And I've always said, you cannot fight spiritual battles with earthly weapons, and that even includes mental health. You know, and a lot of demonic guys, you're not going to give them a pill or some kind of medicine or counseling, you know, that's going to get them better. It takes a special kind of work to deal with true demonic cases. So when people say that, you know, they're really putting themselves at risk saying demonic just because their door handles are shaking or coffee cups flying across the room. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think to that point, you're seeing a lot of struggle with the teams. Okay, so the ones that chased it the hardest was Ghost Adventures, and you're starting to see what happened to Aaron. Aaron's wife was going to hire a hitman to kill her.
Oh, I know. I just watched a thing on that today. It's crazy.
If you don't think that when you go into these places and you're searching for stuff, and if you don't think you're finding it, oh, you are. And
you definitely are.
This is demonic realm shit. Like somebody that you're going to marry is going to now hire a hitman to kill you. And then you have this other case of Zach Bagans. If you go to his house, which is right next to his museum in Vegas, he has a gargoyle. He has a statue of St. Michael. I mean, he lives in fear. It's clear to me that he lives in fear. And he is a person that also you have to look at from the perspective of a person that has had vision problems, breathing problems. And it's because they go down these dark paths. If you go down a dark path and you manifest that stuff, they will call. I mean, demons are not something to be messed with. They're something to be respected. You have to respect it from
you have to
a guided point, right? They're enlightened. They're enlightened ones. They're part of the Elohim. They are part of that. They have a disagreement with God.
Absolutely.
They don't necessarily have a disagreement with you. So if you start provoking and you start picking on them and you start coming at them and not believe, I mean, how many stories have we heard where people have gotten into car accidents after?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it does get a little creepy when you're dealing with it, but the difference that I've seen when you're in places, so Demon House in Detroit, which is now razed, but the land still has that, whatever was on it is still there. That was never cleared. Sally House was never cleared. The owners of Sally House, the original story, the Pickmans were on Paranormal Task Force, which is where all of us were. I mean, Krista from Blondes and Booze is very close to Tony and very good friends with him. And you know, they're not in the paranormal anymore, so we don't really talk to the Pickmans. I reached out to Deb recently because I'm a affiliate / consultant with Blumhouse. At times they call on me to find people for different TV shows and stuff. And we were trying to look for Tony because Tony Pickman is not a fraud. He's a very simple, salt of the earth type of dude. He's not a type of person that makes up stories and shit. He hates it. He didn't want anything to do with the paranormal. He just doesn't. And I mean, Blumhouse was going to offer them money to come on this show because they're releasing that awful film they did. And they know my feelings on it, which was the Exorcist Reloaded is what I called it. But when you have so many spiritual people involved in exorcisms, chances are the demon loses in that. He knows who he needs to bow to at the end of the day. Most people don't know they're possessed. That's the other thing. Like they come to they
don't know what's going on, period.
Right. Like they don't know what's happening to them. And it's all different cases and mildness. In America, in the first world, we don't see a lot of cases anymore. But make your way out to Haiti, make your way out to South America, and you'll find hundreds of cases where you can be deliverance on. And
Middle East too.
Oh yeah.
Romania. Places like that.
Religion.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but the Muslim faith has a lot of work to do as far as their history and trying to make an accountant of Muhammad, who was illiterate, but somehow wrote. I'm like, all right, well, there's a lot of weird things going on with that religion. Actually, the biggest conversion rate in America right now is Muslims to Christianity.
It is,
which is wonderful. It's wonderful to see that because people are opening up their eyes to like a religion that is born and steeped in hate and violence. The entire Quran is talking about killing people that are not like you. They subject themselves to understanding and making it okay to rape men and women. If you just read the extremes of this religion and the founding of the religion, a lot of people don't know that the Muslims weren't around with Jesus and Judea. It wasn't. That's a religion that came 600 years after Christ.
Way after.
They deny. They say is a prophet. Isa is not a prophet. Isa is, and they call him Isa. So if you're looking for him in the Bible, it's not Jesus, or their Quran. It's not Jesus, Isa. And so it's just a weird mix of religious, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people that I know that are Muslim that have very peaceful beliefs. But when you look at it from the arc of the Crusades, when you look at it from the arc of the Mohammedans, when you look at it from a historical perspective,
I'm part of Knights Templar, so
same. I usually wear it around my neck. So you do have this interesting religion that is like everybody's like, well, Wicca and all this stuff. I'm like, well, There is a religion where, you know, when Jesus was 40 days in the desert being tempted, he didn't take the bite, but somebody did. Somebody took that.
Oh
Somebody
yeah.
took the offer. And then this is where we have massive war, massive killing, murder,
Mhm.
rape. I mean, it's kind of October 7th is a great example of what Satanist looks like, of what a demonic realm looks like. And then that they're okay with, you know, suffocating babies and killing babies and beheading babies. So we have things that are going on in this world with spiritual warfare. So if you don't
Yeah.
believe in the supernatural, don't open up the Bible, because it's the most supernatural book you'll ever open.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you think about. I mean, where Jesus was talking his disciples in the book of Matthew. You know, can you imagine how scared his disciples were, because he was saying, you know, there'll be wars and rumors of wars. There'll be mass famines and earthquakes in various places. And you know, and he told them, he goes, but don't be shocked, don't be fooled, you know, and can you imagine because he was like, I have to go away from you. So they're literally thinking that, okay, he's going to have to die and then he's going to be resurrected and then the end's going to come.
Yep. Yeah. Have you read any of Heiser's work?
Yes.
Yeah. You sound a lot like Michael. Unfortunately, we lost him in 2023. He was a um, phenomenal writer, and he wrote a lot about the unseen. And when I saw you naming your podcast, I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Unseen Realm is one of my favorite books he ever wrote.
Yeah.
If you really want to steep yourself in ontology of where this stuff comes from, I would recommend reading From a King. Number one would be Saint or King James, the King James Bible. He actually wrote a book before that. It was called Demonology. And
Mhm.
Demonology is a play that he wrote that talked about his battles with the demon and the dark one. This is where you get some of the earliest accounts of demon possession and actually what it looks like.
Yeah.
And how much power demons actually wield. I mean, you have to understand that, like, this is not something that was created to be evil. This is something that rebelled. And when you put yourself in the middle of that because you want clickbait, you're really asking for trouble.
It is, and I wish people wouldn't do that. You know, I wish. You know, one thing that I tell investigators when they're on, I said, listen, I said, don't get a YouTube education. Don't look at all this clickbait that goes on. You know, the Bible says very clear in Second Timothy, it says, study to show yourself to be approved unto God.
Mhm.
You know, and it's better to have a biblical understanding, because then you start separating what religion is and what a relationship is, and that's exactly what it takes to really grasp the concept of what Jesus and what the apostles and what the New Testament's saying about things to come. Because if you look at the things that Jesus had said, and even through the New Testament, a lot of that had been prophesied hundreds and hundreds of years before they even came.
Oh, 100%. I mean, one of the things that I said during your podcast, a lot of people don't. Heiser was big on Psalm 82, and you really have to read Psalm 82 to understand where the origin of Elohim and Yahweh
Yeah.
come from.
Yep.
When you dive into this type of stuff, you talk to people and they always have this business card and they hand it to you and it's demonology, and I'm like, well, name a Semitic language, and they can't name one. I'm like, you're not a demonologist. There are 77 Semitic languages that you
Yep.
would have to actually know the ontology and the origin of in order to actually be labeled a demonologist. Because if you're sitting in a room and somebody's head starts to spin and they're spitting Semitic languages at you, you're not going to understand what they're saying.
Right.
So there's just this level of where Hollywood kind of takes over and people try to profit, because most of them are non-believers in anything. They're just trying to profit on the paranormal, which a lot of people try to do too. You know, exorcists taking money for deliverance is the
Oh,
worst thing you could possibly do. You know, it's like you can do a donation to St. Jude, which is what most exorcists ask you to do, is give to the archdiocese, give to the church, or give to a great cause like a St.
yep.
Jude's or something
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
Priests don't take money.
No.
So it's it's really like when you hear some of these people. June Lundgren, we had on our show a couple weeks back, and just a lovely person, and I really thought that I would have less in common with her, but I actually did love some of the stuff that she said. Now, I have never been privy to any of the stuff that June has done in person, but I do know that June was right in about the ghost adventure guys and telling them like you're going down a dark path. And and it's crazy that this stuff came out with Aaron probably like 2 or 3 weeks after our show, because she literally says it on our show that they have a black shadow around them. And they continue to stir it up. I mean, in his own museum, he brought in these witch doctors and Satanists to come down and perform ritualistic stuff in the basement of this place, which was Jenna Jameson's father's house, which is what the museum is. It was actually Jenna Jameson's dad, who was in a satanic religion. He was part of the Satanic Panic.
Oh, I know. I know. It's so crazy how all that like, panned together.
It's like you're starting to see a lot of these teams like, you know, what did you stir up years ago? Do you think that a demon works on impulse? Do you think attachments work on impulse? These guys have been around for centuries. They don't have to work. You can have a great life for 10 years and all of a sudden you're getting hit with something. You're like, what the hell? It's kind of like what you were saying generationally. I mean, the Bible is clear on that too. Like, I'm sorry, this might be something your forefathers did 300 years ago and you might be a great guy, but I'm sorry this shit's happening to you. But like, somebody, you know, has to pay when the wages of sin is death, right? I mean, we've heard this before. So you just have to be like careful as to, you know, what you're walking yourself into. Can you conjure demons and can you get demons to go into places and haunted places? Yeah. I mean, I think that if you have the right people there, June was clear on if you ask for it, you know, whatever you're manifesting, whatever you're putting into it, you know, you got to be careful with, you know, the crystals and the emblems. None of that works against demons. Like you don't.
No,
the only
not
thing
one
they're
bit.
afraid of is
not one bit.
They're
you know how many cases I've had to clean up, you know, because paranormal teams have gone in there and they've tried to do the investigation and they don't know proper clearing, cleansing. And matter of fact, I know so many paranormal teams that go in that do not ground themselves, that do not protect themselves, that do not clear and cleanse anything. And I'm like, you guys are leaving yourself so far open doing that.
Yeah, and it's nuts to me that because like a lot of people don't, you know, it's why we call it the unseen realm. And a lot of people are like, well, if it was real, why wouldn't we see it? Well, then faith doesn't really play a role at that point, right? Like, well, what'd she say? I love it when a Baptist priest says being a medium is evil, even though the Bible was written.
Well, what'd she say?
It's a different spirit, but.
Pam said, I love it when a Baptist priest says being a medium is evil, even though the Bible was written by spirit.
Yes and no. I mean, the Bible warns of necromancy. The Bible warns of mediums because
that's a lot of Old Testament stuff too. That's a lot of Old Testament, but you have to understand a lot what they're referring to necromancy is like summoning and things like that, because you think about what the Israelites were doing. I mean, when Moses went up to the mount, you know, to wait for God for the 10 Commandments, I guess he took too long up there, and when he came back down, the Israelites were worshiping a golden calf. So I mean,
he was there a very long time because he comes down with gray hair, and a lot of
gray hair, and not only did it affect him, but he threw the 10 Commandments down and actually had to go back up and get them etched out again.
Yeah, and if you look at some of that perspective of, like, we talked a little bit about, like, a lot of people don't know where like Enoch kind of fits into the equation. Enoch is the grandfather of Noah. So that's how he's allowed in. So there's a couple of questions that come up with the medium thing for Pam. Instance, for Pam. I work with mediums. Mediums are great. There's a great one in Hannibal, Brittany Buckwalter, who only deals in light. She will not deal in the dark. She's not a person that's going to clear demons. She won't do it. It's not her forte. That's not what she does. The reason why they call them a medium is because you're a medium between this realm and the next, right?
Yeah.
So
you're a conduit.
Right. And the problem with that is, you know, Bible's clear on it. It is interesting that you have the realm of the dead, and usually people can't really leave the realm of the dead once they're dead. Once again, that's biblical. So there are 4 parts in there are four different places in the Bible where it specifically says that ghosts don't really exist. Yeah. So, because they're not ghosts of people, it could be energy, it could be elementals, it could be something from a different realm, but it's a very hard, it's a hard nut to crack, because what exactly are we seeing then when we're doing paranormal investigations? What are we going after, right? So, and to your point, Shane, you're absolutely right. Mediums at that point were summoning, they were conjuring. King Herod is a great example of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he conjures a demon. The demon's like, why are you bothering me, dog? Like, don't leave me alone.
Right.
Like, man, what are you doing? And he comes in at the, basically, you know, the same with like the only person that can actually do it was like, you know, Jesus raised, you know, there's the Lazarus, there's Jesus, you had these people that came into the formation of it. But when you have necromancy, in most cases, when you're dealing with stuff like the conjuring of or controlling of, you are mostly seeing biblical ancient texts talk about the necromancy from a perspective of power. It's what Hitler chased. It's what major heads,
the hierarchies.
Yes, he chased these relics. He believed that there might be supernatural power within them, whether it was the spear or the thorns or, you know, the shroud. This is something that, you know, Indiana Jones is based on. And Indiana Jones is one of the most spiritual movies there is. It's always
I know. I wish people would understand like the Holy Grail and stuff like that. Like that really, really is.
Yeah. It's prophetic in that sense. So, you know, I think that like, in general, when you have a group, when the events that we do, it never goes to the level where it's deep enough. It's a fun time to have with your friends. I do believe there are people, though, however, because, you know, priests are big on this, the disembodied, the people that are confused or didn't want to move on or didn't transition on. And this plays with will. This plays with free will. God wouldn't say you had free will and then when you die, you lose it. It doesn't work that way. You're an asshole in life, you're an asshole in death. I mean, things don't make the turn, they don't make the corner. So I do believe there are people that need to be transitioned and that people move from this plane to the next. I think people do want to hang around. In most cases where you see some of the most pretty, like the pretty stories, the stories that we don't talk about, right? Because those aren't good clickbait ones. You know, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, that's kind of like, you know, the thing now. And you know, if the walls are bleeding, it's going to get some press and you know, people venturing into things. There were other places and locations that, you know, Bobby Mackey's was a good example of something that was really dangerous and dark, and it's gone now. And those places find a way to end themselves when you see the bigger ones. So it's really, I mean, another one was destroyed this week with we had a lot of tornadoes that came through Missouri and Kansas. And we had Tri-County Truck Stop, which was a very, very dark place to hunt. There were evil spirits there. There were people that were evil in life and they chose to remain. There were murderers and stuff like that. And Tri-County Truck Stop is something that I never actually even went. The one time I was supposed to go, I had something come up. And I know, you know, my partner Jeremy has been able to go several times. I mean, Blondes and Booze have been there several times. But now it's gone. I mean, the tornado just wrecked it. And it's interesting to see that what's happening in the world. Like, is you know, are we awakening giants of old? Are we awakening the spirit? Is the pendulum moving back? Are people becoming more conservative? I mean, well, the Democratic Party has a 29% approval rating right now, and that's never happened in its history. So people are trying to find their way back to the center, the aisle. Like, hey, like you know, like I said, we're an inclusive company. We accept all. We don't judge any. That's not our place. That's not our place in the realm of spirits either. But at the same time, you have to look at it from everything. For me is supernatural. I look at that as like very supernatural. Like, it's interesting that all these things are taking effect now. Yeah. And it seems like there's a comeback to church. We're starting to see a census regained in the military. People want to fight for their country again. We're starting to see a renewed sense of glory to God. And we're starting to see people come back to church, which is, you know, unheard of. And
well, you think about it too. You think, you know, you have to separate that whole stigma of religion versus relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I'm saying, when people look at me and they were like, "Oh, I'm not a religious person," and I'm like, "Well, praise God, I'm not religious either. I have a relationship." And I think there is a huge difference there, and I do think there is a rise in that because people want to know the truth. They're in search for the truth. Jesus said, John 14:6, he said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me." So there is only one way. So all these other religions that are searching for the way, Jesus said flat off, he is the way, he is the truth, and he is the life. The Old Testament prepared the way for Jesus. The New Testament is Jesus, and we're living in the Revelation days to where Jesus is coming back. So the whole thing was Jesus.
Mm. Yeah, you're not wrong when it comes to that. I am
I
hooking.
do it.
Ian just got here. Oh, okay. I was actually doing your. I'm setting up your computer right now. Do you guys have a break or announcements that you need to make or anything, or about anything you got going on?
No, we got about 15 minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll leave you there then, Dan.
That's fine.
Dan showed up late. He had another engagement.
I had an appointment with a doctor and all that stuff, so it ran late.
Hey, I'm
That's
Shane
okay.
McLain, brother. How are you?
How are you? I've been listening to you guys in the car driving all the way down the highway.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a very great conversation, and I think conversations like this need to be had. Because like there's so much of dysfunction, in the paranormal field, but with people that claim to be spiritually sound people and things like that. Now, let me ask you guys this. How important do you guys feel religion is to have or have a relationship with a higher power when you're dealing with paranormal?
Well, Dan, I'll let you answer that. I've been here.
How did I know you were going to do that? I grew up Catholic. Religion was kind of thrown down forced down my throat. It wasn't my decision. So when I grew older, I was like, I don't go to church. I don't practice, my religion as much as I did when I was younger. I believe in a higher power. I believe there's a higher power stuff, but I don't, I'm not one to go to church. I know Franki's more the religious type on our more the religious man on our team and stuff. I don't know. To me, it's not, I guess I don't want Frankie to be like discouraged of me, but I don't really, think of it as him. I don't ask him for help or anything like that.
Yeah. He's not fully dependent on God. Like I said, though, I wanted to make it clear that, these are my opinions are Frankie's opinions and not the opinions of Haunted Soulz Paranormal. That's a business, and our business is very inclusive, and we love all our team members. We don't judge, and we don't really partake in anything that would physically bring somebody into a realm where they don't feel safe.
Jeopardize anybody else because you can't speak for everybody else.
Right. And that's the thing too. Like we have a lot of members on our team that, think different things. And that's what makes, I think, Haunted Soul such a collective group, is that we don't all just, buy into one philosophy or theology. I mean, Dan likes to do the God helmet. Dan likes to try different things in the paranormal world. He's more curious, more experimental. Jeremy is a flashlight and camera guy. He's an old school, paranormal investigator. Maddie loves the equipment stuff. She loves Estes. She loves the new stuff. That Timothy on our team has everything ever made in the paranormal. Everything.
I think if you put Timothy and Lauren and Carmen together, they have every piece of equipment.
They're going to catch fire. Actually, so what's going to happen? It's going to be like a Tesla fire. It's going to be like a magnesium fire. There's so much lithium in those cases, so it's like so we have that beautiful mix, and I think we had a really fun time. And talk about inclusive, and we had I think Fresta was the only guy I think that came, was like a male aside from me and you.
Yeah,
so we had basically an all-female group of women. Well, actually, Maverick was there, so he was another dude. So we had this great time with this group of people that have never really ghost hunted before, And me and Dan kept coming down and was like, man, they hit that slot machine. They hit that slot machine. Because the first time you ghost hunt, you when you see something or when you have interaction,
Oh, I know.
and you're hooked, dude. Like you're hooked immediately. And it's like, all right, else can I go? Where else can I go?
Yep.
And you always have like that one place. Like a Dan, I think it's MSP, right? Or
Yes.
Yeah. And for me, it'll always be like Lamp Mansion for me because, you know, I spent a lot of time reading about that family and doing a documentary on the family that comes out this year at some point. And I think that everybody, there's so much light in the paranormal too. Like I could talk darkness. I can talk Semitic languages. I can talk, you know, demonology and the red dragon, and we can talk about like, you know, the 72 lesser keys of Solomon. Like that's all the stuff that's in my head just from the study and the rounds. But we don't ever get into that in events. We want people to have a good time at events, and we don't want people to get bogged down by being, and a lot of times you'll see comments come through and me and Dan will be like, what is happening this way? I don't want to go to that. There's going to be a demon that possesses me. I'm like, what are you watching? Like, I don't think that's ever happened. Like, so you have to.
That's the stigma of YouTube, though.
It is, and
it is, and TikTok.
Hollywood, you know, because the other thing about Hollywood too is like, you know, first person ever doing a paranormal investigation. It's not going to be like The Conjuring, guys. You're not going to.
No.
You're not going to crawl out of the wall and like you're not going to see a demon down a staircase. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it might, but it's not something that we would put money on like that, you know. But Emmaus and Arcadia are our two richest locations right now. They're just new and they're fully unsaturated. They're new to Missouri. They're the first and third largest locations in Missouri, and we have the honor and the privilege to run those facilities for the owners and do their paranormal investigations and really hold it down. Darla, who's one of the owners of Arcadia with Matt, they're Buckners. They're really big on not having any kind of evil stuff. And Darla is such this sweet lady that loves to do all the different festivities. Put up a Christmas tree. Let's do a Yule log. Let's do this witches night out at the house and do a little speakeasy. And so she's always having fun stuff. And then Mandy and Ben over at Emmaus are just getting started with Emmaus. They're just getting these buildings off the ground. They're getting them prepped for ghost hunting and for other stuff too. They want to really make that place. So you're restoring history with each ticket bought. And that's a thing that we really don't spend enough time on, is that every time somebody purchases a ticket, it's going toward preserving that place and always having that place in people's lives. And I think that there's so much positivity that we're doing for those business. You know, is there something dark in Emmaus? Yes, there's something dark there. Would I say it's a demon? I would not say it's a demon. The difference and I know when people have been around it and people that haven't been around it, because they'll tell you the story. And I'm like, that's not a demon. Because there's something that people don't understand. It's a core shakeup. It's a core shakeup. It's not something visual. It's literally guttural. You will feel it. And when you feel that, you never, ever want to be around it again. It is the darkest mass energy, like something is sitting on your chest. The smells are just volatile. And it's like that doesn't happen with disembodied humans. That is something that's ancient. And mixing with that,
the sulfuric flies, when you get into that, I mean, you're literally around evil death. And that is a feeling you cannot shake. I mean, there's nothing you can do to stop. I mean, it is, like you said, it's a guttural feeling. And it is. It's not something that you're just going to see right off. You're going to feel that beyond everything else. And I agree 100%.
Yeah. Dan, I think that what Dan does a lot too with the team is he's our front guy. He makes the events fun. People love ghost hunting with Dan. Dan's like, all right, I got to go downstairs and ghost hunt. That's part of it though. Like these people, like they sent me the two Salangros we had. So Morgan, who's married to Maverick, and then we had Sarah, right? So Sarah works with his good friend Lodi, and they all kind of work together. And so when I and Susan was there, and we had some pro that's there too. We had a couple pros that, I mean, Susan, in my opinion, has been to a lot of places now. She's run events. She knows what's going on. But seeing new people kind of get into it, they sent me like Instagram video, like, we want to go again. Like, when's the next event? And like, we want to try the big places. And I'm like, all right, we want to be on the team. And I'm like, well, Sarah, it's going to take a long time for Sarah to get on that team. I don't know if Sarah could do a lonely walk because, you know, she was wouldn't leave the side of her friend or Dan. But we had a lot of activity in this. It's one of our smaller locations called the Sheridan. It was an old brothel, and you know, it has so many different stories in St. Louis, and it's got so much activity. And this weekend, I don't know if it was the weather or something, man, but something kicked up in there, and I've never seen it that active. And we were getting equipment to work with each other, which was insane. We had music boxes going off. We had dead bells going off like in tandem, and Alice box, like, which is one of my favorite new tools.
The Alice box.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the Alice box. I think that, well, it's ITC, so it's using radio frequency, which I think is brilliant. And most of that stuff comes out of Germany. It's not American paranormal equipment. And so it has so much more advancement as far as like what they're like. The minute we walked in, I'm talking maybe we're there an hour, and one of our team members, Timothy, he's a recruit right now. He's doing his challenges in the next couple of weeks, but he flips on the Alice box, and I shit you not, the first two things that come up is Dan, and the second word is returns. Dan returns, and Dan has done 22 paranormal investigations at this. They know him. They knew him there. His name came up multiple times throughout the night.
It was crazy. That was like the first two things that came up, and it was something. I mean, I've done this thing with the mirrors at this place in the basement, and I left them turned facing each other. They called me out on it before on an Estes box. So me and Maddie used to do our podcast from that building. So they know us very well. They know I'm a big present in that building. And we hadn't been there in a while since we moved our podcast, to Franki's studio and stuff. So when he turned on that box and it said Dan returns, I was just like, that was enough for me for the night. I was like, that's,
Yeah. We have one more event at Sheridan there on April 5th, and I would get your tickets. It is one of the more inexpensive events because it's really get your feet wet type of atmosphere. If you've never ghost hunted before, it's a perfect place to go, and you'll get activity and you don't have to walk a lot. It's great, right? And it's April 5th. The tickets are $60. We'll have it on our website, and it will link right to Nicole. You got some people, you got some latecomers. Make sure you watch this show. It's a good one.
It's a good one.
April 5th is at Sheridan, and then our next big event, we have Missouri State Penitentiary twice, but we have, this one's really catching on too, is the Arcadia Academy, April 12th. That one's selling hardcore. I think just March is it's a tough time to do events. We were really surprised of Sheridan. We sold so many tickets like the 2 days before the event happened, and so we put it on. Usually, if we have 1 or 2 ticket sales, we'll move the person. We're just trying to get a feeler out. When you have new locations that don't have all the TV shows they're creeping about demons and crawlers and all this other crap that comes up, it's hard to tell a location to people. But being that Emmaus is the largest, but we're very close to the MSP, Sheila, and all those guys over at Missouri State Penitentiary, is because I think they like us. They probably like us. We're probably in their top 3, Dan, I would think, of teams that actually rent the place out, because we are so respectful of their spirits, and we're so respectful of the staff that's there, because MSP is on site. And the cop that's on site is really funny too. Like, he's caught some stuff because he watches that place. And so we have some really fun events coming up this year. You can ghost hunt with us, and
it's amazing.
You can always take a break and sit down, and we can have a conversation about whatever you want.
Guys, I hate to break it up, but we got about 2.5 minutes.
All right. Hey, why don't you guys tell everybody how to get a hold of you, and how to reach out, how to find out more information about everything that you guys are saying.
Yeah. So
you can go to Haunted Souls Paranormal with a Z, or Haunted Souls with a Z Paranormal, or I'm sorry, Haunted Souls with a Z.com. We've
Yeah.
changed our website. I'm so used to saying that before. You can go there and find all of our events. You can go to emmausvillage.com. And that is all the Emmaus and privates and everything. We have a postcard there that Frankie's holding up that has all of our events. We have them all over the Midwest: Randolph, Missouri State, Ray County, Pythian Castle, all kinds of events. Just not here in Missouri. We do travel outside the Midwest and
Yeah, so we have-
everything. You can follow us on TikTok, Facebook, same thing. Haunted Souls Paranormal, TikTok, Instagram. We're all on the socials.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday nights, every other Tuesday, next Tuesday, we do our podcast at
Yes.
7:00 on YouTube and Facebook Central. And I think next week we're going to talk about the big scams about tickets and
No.
team scamming and all that stuff. Because that's a big thing right now. All these people trying to scam people for equipment. And I'm like, my God, they just moved into the paranormal thing now.
Yeah, dolls, anything on Facebook Marketplace, haunted rooms. I'm still investigating, and I got so much slack for that haunted room stuff. But like everything I have it's not an opinion; it's fact.
Right.
Like, it's an abandoned building, and you're buying tickets from these people. It's like
Right.
it's scary. So we're going through all of them. Like the other one too is big that you'll see in this industry is if you're running events, somebody will like say, they'll post and I can't go. I'm trying to get rid of my tickets, and I'll sell them for half price, and like. You're not allowed to do that. When you purchase tickets from us, it says you can't resell these tickets. They will not work. So whoever that money is, we're going to deny them entry. So
All right, you guys, I hate to do this, but we got another show that comes on in just a minute. So
cool.
Hey, thank you
please
guys.
come back.
Thank you.
guys.
Sorry I was late.
Thank you guys for coming on. You guys have been amazing, and I'd love to have you back again. And like I said, this conversation can go on for hours, and I know it can, but I really appreciate you guys, man. And you guys stay spooky, okay?
We'll do.
Thanks.
All right, guys. All right.
All right, Shane,
Awesome
close us out.
group of guys there. Awesome group of guys. And it's just so good to be around and have things where you can talk and have a good connection with people like that, because they are good guys. And go check them out. Haunted Souls Paranormal. They are phenomenal at what they do. But you guys, it's been a great show. It's been great having you guys here, and much love to all of you guys. You guys stay safe, be blessed always, and stay spooky, people. Peace.